ladies and gentlemen, this is the live that I've waited for so long. The post Terence Crawford versus Errol Spence live has been the live that I've been salivating for, and we're finally here. Let's switch over to my face. What is going on, everybody? It is time for episode 40, the post-fight show. The live show after the amazing performance by Terence Bud Crawford. Let's go to the chat real quick. We got to always start it off with Hashim. Let's go, champ. And after Hashim's Let's Go, champ, we got to go into the Michael Buffer introduction so we can start the show. Let's hit that with the Michael Buffer real quick.
Ladies and gentlemen, let's get ready to rumble!
Let me put my headphones on so I can hear things with you guys at the same time. Hold up. I forgot about that. All right, so what's going on, guys? How did you guys? I hope you bought the pay-per-view. That's number one. I hope you bought the pay-per-view. This is one of those fights that feels like there was more publicity after the fight, which is, it sucks, but it feels like because of Terence Crawford coming in with Eminem, creating somewhat of an iconic moment. What Terence Crawford did to Errol Spence, it created such a viralness after the fact, but it wasn't as viral going in. However, I looked at the All Access the All Access YouTube view numbers. I've compared them to the Tank Davis. I've compared them to Canelo versus Plant. Tank Davis versus Ryan Garcia did about 1.2 million. Canelo versus Plant did about 700K. Terence Crawford versus Errol Spence, their numbers in terms of their press conference, the weigh-ins, the numbers they've done on YouTube, because I'm using that plus the fact that they've sold out to give my prediction of the amount of pay-per-views that this sold. And I want to say that it's probably going to fall in the realm of 600,000 to about 700,000 pay-per-views, because their viewership in terms of All Access did not come close to Tank and Ryan Garcia. I think Tank and Ryan Garcia's All Access episodes, they're sitting at around 5.2 million, while Canelo's with Plant was like 1.5 million, and Terence Crawford with Spence is 1.2 million. So it still did good. And by every stretch of the imagination, it will be a success, but I don't know if it will cross that mythical 1 million mark, which I wish it does. I hope I'm wrong, but I'm looking at metrics and it's putting me in a space where I think safely the prediction for the pay-per-views will probably be 600 to about 700,000. All right, let me go to before we continue, because I have to retire a video. So but before we do that, let me go to the chat real quick. Hashim, greatness. Yes, man. Yes. Remember when I told you guys when I watched Inoue and I couldn't believe what he did? I watched Crawford and I believed what I was seeing, because I predicted this literally 11 months ago in a video. To a T, using the analytics, the data, CompuBox aggregate, individual tool sets between both fighters, to like literally to a T. This fight, I predicted this fight to the magnitude, like it was very incredibly accurate. And we're gonna pull that up because that's the video that I'm going to retire. But I gotta retire it with you guys. You're not fooling me, Shannon Briggs. Let's go. Are you Shannon Briggs, Hashim? Because you always saying "Let's go, champ" to start the show. Willie Pete. Crawford has surpassed Mayweather as the greatest fighter of our generation. That's a tough one. I don't think so. I do think that Mayweather has had better competition or better opposition overall. But I do think that Crawford could potentially defeat Mayweather if they were to fight. I'm not saying that he would, but I'm saying that he does have a chance to if they were to fight. Like, just seeing how much he has, how much tools he has in his toolbox, it seems like that to me. But We'll see. Right now, I still think that in terms of accomplishments, Mayweather, granted, he didn't become undisputed, but that wasn't a goal in the past. That wasn't a popular goal for fighters. The popular goal for fighters was multiple divisions. Mayweather, I think he's gone up 5 different weight classes and won titles in 5 different weight classes. So that's a big deal. While Terence Crawford has done 3 weight classes so far and has been undisputed in 2. But undisputed is popular now. It wasn't as popular before, so we can't use that metric the same way it's used now. So it's a tough thing to judge right now, to be honest. I predicted it 11 months ago on this same channel. Hey, man, listen. A lot of people saw this coming. I hear there's a lot of pundits saying people may have thought Crawford was going to win, but nobody thought that it was going to be this one-sided. There are people that thought it was going to be this one-sided. If you understood the limitations of both Crawford and Spence and the positives of both Crawford and Spence, you saw this fight playing out in this way. The moment Crawford downloaded Spence, and because Spence only had the one thing, I was literally like, people was trying to put me out to hang me out to dry because I was saying that Spence his only thing is his engine. The thing that he has that thwarts other people is that he has an ungodly or a godlike engine where it's constant. He doesn't stop punching, and he's accurate when he does that. But when someone takes that away from him, there is nothing else there. He'll start off his combination with the jab to get on the inside. Boom, 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 boom. What happens when you take the jab off and he can't even get on the inside? Terence Crawford took everything away from him, and he took it away from him by the second half of the second round. He took everything. From that moment, it was gone. And it was up to Spence to adjust, and he was not able to adjust because that's all he had in his tool set, the nonstop engine. But a lot of people were romanticizing the whole Errol Spence thing because he won all these different titles. He was popular, right? He was an attraction, and that kind of that's like when people were shocked when Manny Pacquiao got knocked out by Juan Manuel Marquez, because Manny Pacquiao's the attraction. People get there's this subtle romanticization. I always have problems with that word when it comes to somebody who's a star. All right, let's pick this up. Rashid Wilson, very disappointed in that fight. Fanatico, felt like I got robbed for 90. Why were you disappointed? That was like an incredible performance. Was it an incredible fight? No, but was it an incredible performance? Yes. Both Spence and Fulton get dismantled in the same week. Bud is levels above Spence. Yes, and to me, Bud had a better performance than even Inoue had on Tuesday, because he had multiple knockdowns. It was a bashing, and then ends it with a TKO. I'm thinking Mayweather's rubbing his hands, thinking one more pay-per-view, big pay-per-view. Oh, nah, that's crazy. The pay-per-view numbers would be huge. It would be, but I did hear that Floyd Mayweather, after the fight was over, he started running miles. Now, I don't know what that means, right? Because he's retired. But he did start running miles. Like, he got outside and started doing his run. Maybe he saw that and there was some motivation, some spark, and it made him feel a certain type of way, so he started running. But hey, listen, that's what I heard. I don't know how true. I wasn't there. I wasn't in Vegas. I was here. So I don't know. But that sounds very Mayweather-esque. He does stuff like that, right? And if he feels that he could, but the thing is, to me, I think he will be way too rusty to deal with Terence Crawford at this stage. I think he would lose at this stage if they were to fight. Would it be marketable? And yes, because Mayweather's will go, right? Mayweather's undefeated record will be up for grabs. So that's going to be incredibly marketable, just that in and of itself. And then, he's Mayweather. So through social media alone, it will sell. So that, it's one of those things. But I don't think that he would do it. He would be foolish to do it unless he only cares about the money, or he knows how good he is and he feels that he can hang with a Terence Bud Crawford. I don't think that Floyd Mayweather can hang with Bud at this point in time, where they are right now, where Floyd Mayweather is with his inactivity and where Bud Crawford is. YouTube Boxing 6007, what's going on, brother? Let me catch up. I'm going to have to pass through a few of these. Let's see. Bud is deceptively strong. He was hurting Spence with every jab he landed. He dropped him with the 2-1 early and was just leagues ahead of Spence. Okay. All right. Hold on. Let's pull up the video that I'm going to retire, which is let's see here. Let's pull up my prediction from 11 months ago. Let's go ahead and switch over to picture-in-picture. There's pundits out there telling you that people did not see this coming. I'm going to show you how, using analytics, data, CompuBox aggregate, and their individual abilities, using all of those things together, you could create a very accurate prediction. And we're going to show it right here. Let's pull this up. We're going to play this. Y'all ready? Let's go.
Terence Crawford versus Errol Spence Jr. will be announced
11 months ago,
soon.
guys.
But who's going to win? Now, for anybody out there saying, hey, it's not going to be announced, I get it, because we get PTSD as boxing fans when it comes to the fights that we want made. Heck, Floyd Mayweather and Manny Pacquiao was 5 years past when it should have happened. So I understand that fact. But trust me, when it comes to boxing, silence is deafening. And the fact that both parties have not really gone at each other on social media, and considering the fact that Terence Crawford...
Now, I was wrong about one thing. The fight did not happen 11 months ago when it was supposed to, but it ended up happening. And this video rang true anyways in terms of the prediction itself.
Is now in the same promotional company, holds that additional belt to move into undisputed. And when both fighters were asked if the fight would happen, they both said, yeah, this fight is going to happen. It's just too big not to happen.
Fight made, down the line and, real soon. Not down the line, real soon. And, give the fans what they've been looking for.
It's closer than it's ever been. So, if it don't happen now, it's never going to happen. So, it's way closer than what it used to be. So, I think it's definitely going to happen.
On top of that, we've gotten many inside reports that they are closing in on a deal, and recently, just as recent as yesterday, an incredibly reliable source in Don Rafael posted that the deal was close to being signed, so close that they are already Crawford is considered by ESPN pound for pound list, but he Errol Spence up to that and speed, a peak for an at 34, and Errol coming in at 32. So tech, very intriguing. So if this fight takes place, who would win? Well, let's look at some data, because data, especially when it comes to boxing.
By the way, I'm going to show you guys the CompuBox numbers of this fight, and it's going to literally ring true to everything that happened here. They continue their, whatever their aggregate is, they did it here as well.
Boxing is incredibly important for telling a story and even for predicting outcomes. Terence Crawford is 5'8" with a 74-inch reach, 38 wins with 0 losses, and 29 wins by KO. Errol Spence Jr. is 5'9" with a 72-inch reach, with 28 wins, 0 losses, and 22 wins coming by KO. So you can see why this is an interesting fight. Errol Spence has the height advantage, but Crawford has the reach advantage.
And that came in handy for
wins
Crawford,
with 29 knockouts. Errol Spence has less wins with 22 knockouts. And there are important key percentages to take note of. These are the percentages that are found in the CompuBox data. Crawford has 45.5 total punches thrown per round, but Errol Spence brings that aggressive pressure with 69 total punches.
The highest in the welterweight division,
round, which is
69
pretty
punches
insane
by Errol
for
Spence.
a welterweight.
Average.
And on top of that, Crawford only throws about 21.7 total power punches per round, and Errol Spence throws about 34.6 total punches per round. And when it comes to the landing department, the average power punch landed per round for Terence Crawford is 10.2, while for Errol Spence is 15.7. So Errol Spence overwhelms you with activity.
That was Errol Spence's thing. He overwhelms you with activity. He's not as accurate, but he throws so much more that you're overwhelmed. You can't do anything. You're stuck. That's Errol Spence.
Connect percentage for Terence Crawford is 47%, which is the third highest in boxing. So he is incredibly effective with his punches. Errol Spence, on the other hand, total connect percentage is 45.3%, much lower compared to Terence Crawford, but with a higher power punch connect percentage of 45.6%, while Crawford only has about 42.9%. But here's the big kicker. Crawford is much more judicious in the ring and much more defensively responsible, as his opponent's total connect percentage is only 21.2%, which is 17th in the world, and his opponent's power punch is only 26.3%.
But look at the percentages landed
in the
on
world. Errol Spence, however, opponent's total connect is 21.9%, and his opponent's power punch connect is a whopping 29.2%.
What was the punch landed the most by Bud Crawford? 60.1% of Bud Crawford's total power punches landed on this man. That is an unreal number. So this was already telling. He allows a lot of power punches to come in because he's going to take some, but he's going to give a lot of punches back, which is the thing that Errol Spence does. But
so
let's continue.
Errol Spence gets hit a lot, and when he gets hit, many of those punches are power punches. Now, the good thing is
which
that
is what he
Crawford
got hit with.
Doesn't throw much. But why doesn't Crawford throw as much as Errol Spence or land as much as Errol Spence? The thing is that Crawford's punches count almost every single.
Was this not the crystal ball video? What pundit out there that you know of was this accurate with their prediction? Was this detailed with their prediction? None. Zero.
Single time. He knows how to set them up. He takes his time setting them up, but when they land, it's a powerful impact. Crawford has moved up to the welterweight division back in 2018 with his first fight versus Jeff Horn.
This was 11 months
Horn,
ago,
who,
guys.
in controversial
This video
fashion,
was
took the title away from
11
Manny
months ago.
Pacquiao. Terence Crawford has moved up to the welterweight division and has knocked out 100% of everyone he has fought. That is his last 6 fights. In Errol Spence's last 6 fights, he's gotten 2 KOs out of 6 opponents. One common opponent being Sean Porter, who was never stopped before until he met up with Terence Crawford. So Terence makes every punch count, while Errol Spence tries to overwhelm you with volume. Now, many people would say, well, Terence Crawford hasn't been in the welterweight division long enough. He hasn't collected all of the belts. But Errol Spence started collecting the belts right as Terence Crawford entered the division. And boxing is prize fighting. And with prize fighting comes a lot of politics and a lot of promotional team posturing. So many of the titles that were held in the welterweight division were held by the PBC
I see you
fighters.
guys on the chat.
So it was much easier for
way.
Errol Spence to capture all of those titles.
So I'm reading.
Granted, Terence Crawford should have probably moved to PBC a long time ago, but I believe he was given a lot of false promises by Top Rank at the time and decided to still try his hat with Top Rank in hopes that he would finally get a fight with Manny Pacquiao, as that was being negotiated before the pandemic hit. He wanted that marquee fight under his belt. Unfortunately, it didn't happen, and as soon as his contract was up, he knew what he had to do. Left Top Rank, and now he's at PBC. I don't see anything stopping this fight from happening, as the stars have aligned. Errol Spence has knocked out Dennis Ugas, who just beat Manny Pacquiao, to claim his third and final title. If Errol Spence beats Terence Crawford, he will become the first ever welterweight undisputed champion in the 4-belt era. And if Terence Crawford beats Errol Spence, he would not only become the first welterweight to become undisputed in the 4-belt era, he will become the first male boxer, male fighter to become undisputed in 2 weight divisions for the first time in the history of the sport.
He's a lineal champion in 3.
As big as it can get. In my opinion, I have Terence Crawford beating Errol Spence Jr. He just has a lot of tools in his tool belt that he can use effectively against Errol Spence. All of the angles that are created by Errol Spence's southpaw stance will be mitigated by Terence Crawford's ability to fight in the southpaw stance effectively, which means he leaves his strongest hand close to his opponents at all times.
The jab hand.
You can see things like this happen when a power hand is your jab hand.
You'll see things like this happen when a power hand is your jab hand. It did 2 things. Eliminated the angles possibility for Errol Spence and gave his power hand the front of his body position as opposed to the back of his body position. So he was doing things like this. And what did he do with that? What did he do with that? He literally, let me see if I can pull it up right here. He was knocking, the first knockdown was a power jab. The first knockdown was a power jab by Terence Bud Crawford. And throughout the entire fight, that jab was a sledgehammer. So he literally used that as the tool to nullify Errol Spence's jab. And because Errol Spence couldn't create angles, he couldn't jab to get inside, there was no more answers from Errol Spence. There were no more answers. He had to sit there and take the punishment, which is sad, but he had to.
I think he's going to create a lot of trouble for Errol Spence, but I do believe that Errol Spence will come in with a lot of volume to try to take over the fight. But when it's all said and done, I believe that Terence Crawford will break down Errol Spence Jr. and eventually get the knockout. Both of them has fought top-tier competition. I would give the slight edge in the welterweight division to Errol Spence Jr. as he fought the likes of a younger Kell Brook, Danny Garcia, and Sean Porter. However, Terence Crawford did beat the former undefeated Jose Benavidez Jr. of the Benavidez family and took his O, as well as beating Jeff Horn, knocking out an older Kell Brook, and actually stopping Sean Porter. I think when you look at all of the attributes, including Terence Crawford's reach, I believe that Terence Crawford will, in fact, come out with the victory when it's all said and done. Now, this fight is being set to happen in November.
Okay, all right. Let's look at the CompuBox stats for this fight. It's the same story of their aggregate. It's the same story of their aggregate. Spence, first round, 47 punches thrown, Crawford 18. Now, I gave Spence the first round. That was the one and only round I gave to Spence. After that, it was all Crawford. But look, even the rounds that were Crawford, look at the volume coming from Spence. I told you, Spence's engine is either going to be his thing that overwhelms Crawford or his actual Achilles heel, because it's going to allow Crawford to counter him to death. And I said that it's more than likely going to be Crawford countering him to death because Crawford has a deeper tool set. And that's what he's going to do to Spence. So first round, 47 punches by Spence, 18 punches by Crawford. Second round, 54 punches by Spence, 36 punches by Crawford. Third round, 62 punches by Spence, 37 punches by Crawford. Fourth round was the first round that Crawford outpunched him. Fifth round, same thing. Sixth round, Spence comes back, 69 punches thrown to 49 by Crawford. 51 punches thrown by Spence to 49 by Crawford. 42 punches thrown by Spence to 35 by Crawford. And round 9, where he was taken out, 53 punches thrown by Spence to 36 punches thrown by Crawford. The story of the fight was the exact story of their CompuBox aggregate. Crawford throws less punches per round, but he is more effective with each punch landed, while Spence is ineffective with his punches landed, but overwhelms you with volume. But what happens when you have somebody in front of you that turns your volume against you? Because miraculously, Errol Spence never reduced his output. He was getting punched left, which tells me that Errol Spence does not have anything else that he can bring to the table. Unfortunately, he does not have anything else that he could bring to the table. His only thing he could do is constant pressure, constant volume. And if that falls, he's on an island. He's on a deserted island. There is nothing else you can do. There's nothing else. He only had the volume. At one point, Derrick James basically told him, throw something wild and catch him so that you could hopefully get something going within that moment, because there was nothing that he had there. He had nothing else. When you rely on bully fighting tactics, and I don't say bully fighting, I always got to make sure that this is clear because people always take this as a negative connotation. I don't say bully fighting in the sense that it means that he's a bully or is a negative connotation. What I'm trying to say is that you are a volume fighter. That is both basically your offense and your defense. You're so overwhelming that it breaks people down over time. That's what Errol Spence was. He was so overwhelming, he broke people down over time. But what happens when you have somebody across from you that can use that against you? If you don't change, then you're running into a brick wall over and over again. And that's what Errol Spence was doing. He was consistently running into a brick wall. He never changed his CompuBox aggregate. Never changed it. Consistently kept throwing more punches than Bud Crawford, even though he was getting hit flush, getting dropped 3 times. He never changed it. Why didn't he change his strategy? Because there is no other strategy. And that's the sad truth. He'll beat really good fighters. He'll definitely beat mediocre fighters. He'll beat A-level fighters if they can't deal with the volume. But he ain't going to beat elite fighters. He's not going to beat elite fighters. He just won't. They won't be able to deal. They will be able to deal with the volume as proven by Terence Crawford. So my video that I put out 11 months ago predicting the fight, there's pundits out there telling you, hey, nobody saw this fight the way like that this was going to be like this. I saw the fight like this. From day one, I saw the fight just like this. No difference. And holy smokes, we got 71 people in here. Jesus. Wow, guys, hit the like. This is amazing. Thank you so much. Hit the like if you haven't. Let me put the Michael Buffer on for you guys so y'all can hit the like. Michael Buffer for the likes. Let's see if we can pull that up. What's going on here? Hold up. Why? Oh yeah, we can't do that because we on the other. Let me switch over real quick. Hold on. Let me switch over real quick. Switch over to my face. All right, let's hit the Michael Buffer for the likes.
Ladies and gentlemen,
let's get ready to rumble. Let's pull up the chat real quick. All right, so when people tell you, hey, listen, nobody knew that this was going to happen. It was a 50-50 fight. Yes, on paper, it was a 50-50 fight because of their accomplishments. It was a 50-50 fight because of their accomplishments. Also, I'm not taking anything away. I'm also not saying that being a high-level bully fighter is whack, is like, oh, no, there have been amazing high-level bully fighters. Roberto Duran, Manny Pacquiao, just to name a few. Right? Being a bully fighter, if you could do that as great as Errol Spence does it, it's awesome. But what separates people that are like that don't lose, right? People that don't lose no matter what, or people that overcome, like Sugar Ray Leonard, for example. He's lost, but he's overcome things, right? He's gotten the rematch and he's cleaned it up and he does all these things. The separation between people like a Sugar Ray Leonard and people like a Floyd Mayweather and a Andre Ward and a Terence Bud Crawford is their ability to adjust. Their ability to adjust. And I've always said that the ability to adjust is the most important thing you can have in boxing if you want to remain undefeated. The ability to adjust is the most important thing you could have in boxing. It's more important than being the most volume guy. It's more important than being a flashy counterpuncher. It's more important than having a beautiful shoulder roll. It's your ability to adjust. When you can no longer adjust, you're dead in the water. Pardon the pun, but Errol Spence in that fight was literally a big fish out of water. He was a big fish out of water. And not taking anything away from Spence, he's an amazing fighter. He's a great fighter. He's top tier. But when you fight elite, and there's not that many elite people, like I'm talking elite for real. There's not that many in the world. And we just hit 80 concurrent viewers. We are on fire. Guys, hit the likes. Hit the like if you can, please. This is amazing. Sorry, had to pause because we going ham. Hit the share button too. Like, screw it. Let's just go crazy. But we're at 86 concurrent viewers. Oh my goodness, this is beautiful. All right, anyways. So that video, I'm now retiring that video. It's going to be retired, but I wanted to retire it with you guys to show you guys. Don't listen to the pundits out there that said that people did not predict this in this way. I'm not the only one, I'm sure, but in terms of the pundits that I've seen make their predictions, I believe that my prediction was the most on-the-nose prediction. I even talked about his jab hand being his power hand, how he was going to use that to nullify Errol Spence's offense. I showed an example of him knocking somebody back with it, and what he was doing with Errol Spence was very akin to what he was doing with Kell Brook, using that jab. I shown that the angles were going to be eliminated from Errol Spence because he was going to have his southpaw stance, effectively eliminating the angle possibility for Errol Spence, because you can only really create angles when you both have your foot. When you both have contradicting lead foots that are basically touching each other, you can step to the side and get to in an advantageous position. But when you are both southpaw and southpaw, is basically a mirror. So you can't do that. You cannot position yourself easily. You could, but it isn't as easy. It isn't as quick as a step forward over their foot to get the angle. You can't do that. You have to create an angle through different mechanisms. By having them guard, by having them get disoriented, and then creating an angle like that. And Crawford was creating a lot of angles on Errol Spence. But yes, and I even said it was going to be a knockout. And on the lives, I know you guys, the real ones that's been here, on the lives, I literally said that the download's going to happen early. And when did I say the knockout was going to come? Between 8 and 10. Either 8, 9, or 10, he's going to get the knockout. And where did he get the knockout? Right smack dab in the middle, in the 9th round. So yes, it was predicted. This was 4 years in the making. It was predicted. All right, let's look at the chat. Let's see what you guys are saying. Hold on. Let me pull this up. Let's see. Boxing Fanatico, Crawford checks right hook is nasty. Every time he lands it, Bud is one in a lifetime fighter, and I'm glad we're a part of his era. 100%. 100%. Terence Crawford fights Jermell, AP, whatever was going on. And that was Ferdinand Zacharias. Sorry, I didn't mention your name. Sorry about that, brother. Terence Crawford fights Jermell after Canelo beats Jermell and then takes the Benavidez fight after. Woo! Yo, if Terence Crawford fights Benavidez, that will be beautiful. That will be beautiful. Tough, but beautiful. And I think Terence Crawford could pull it off. He's definitely a once-in-a-lifetime fighter. We're at 89 concurrent viewers. Insane. Let's see what else you guys are saying. Let's see here. Spence threw over 100 more punches, yet was far less accurate, as we said in our prediction 11 months ago. He wasn't going to be able to hold. Once Crawford, with the tool set and his adjustments, comes through, does Errol Spence have something else? He's never had to show anything else. Crawford is so multifaceted. He's shown different times where he had to adjust. He had to adjust against Mean Machine. He had to adjust against Gamboa. People used those fights with Mean Machine and Gamboa and all that stuff to say, look, Crawford isn't that good, because they're looking at it in a very simplistic mindset. They're looking at boxing as a you punch me, I punch you, you punch me, I punch you. And that's it. That's as far as they're taking the understanding of what's going on. They're not seeing it like when Zab Judah was beating the crap out of Floyd Mayweather for 4 rounds, but then Mayweather just destroys Zab Judah for the rest of the fight. They're not seeing the Maidana destroying Floyd Mayweather for the first 4 rounds and then Mayweather just taking over. The fact that the person could come back and take over the fight and just completely take you out of there, which is what Bud was doing with even Gamboa, it shows a level of superseding just fighting through adversity, figuring out moments to turn the fight completely on its head. The ability to adjust. The fact that people looked at Crawford getting hit by Mean Machine and getting hit by Gamboa as a telltale sign that he was going to lose to Spence is looking at boxing in a very simplistic way. It's looking at boxing in a very simplistic way. The fact that there was always with Bud Crawford for his entire career, there isn't a fight that you could point at, and this is insane because there's fights even for Floyd that don't look like this, and even for Andre Ward that don't look like this. There's not a fight. You understand? There's not one fight in Crawford's entire 40-fight career that you could point at and say, that was a robbery. That one was too close to call. That one looked like they gave him a gift. He's the only fighter, undefeated, that I know of that has no possible gift decisions, period. Where even if it isn't a gift decision, it can't even be perceived as a gift decision in all 40 fights. You understand that? You understand how crazy that is? For him to always create separation or take you out. He's always going to create separation or he's always going to take you out. He's never going to leave it up in the air. You always know when Bud Crawford wins because he shows the world that he won. If this fight would have gone to the scorecards, Bud Crawford still would have won and Errol Spence fans would still have said he won. Errol Spence fans would still have said he won. Heck, I was sitting right next to an Errol Spence fan as I was watching it. And the whole time he's like, they need to stop the fight. He's getting demolished. So even if that fight would have went to the scorecards, it was Bud Crawford's fight. But obviously he got the knockout, keeping his knockout streak alive at the welterweight division. He's knocked out 100% of the... I made that video 11 months ago before he fought Adesanya. He knocked Adesanya out, and then he comes and knocks Errol Spence out. He's still at 100% knockout ratio. We just hit 92 concurrent viewers.
Ladies and gentlemen,
hit the like, guys. Hit the like. We doing it. AP whatever. Hashim 47. Adrian Domes. YouTube Boxing 6007. Hugh Jake. I know you're not in here, but we doing it, man. We're making the channel. The channel is doing this thing now, man. It's doing this thing. We here. But yeah, I just had to get that off my chest, man. Terence Bud Crawford, his ability to adjust, which very few fighters have this endless, like it's like an endless sea of adjustment tools that they can pull, is what really gives him the power that he has to be undefeated. Not only be undefeated, but also create separation. Not only is Bud Crawford undefeated, he's also creates separation, which is important. That shows a lot. Errol Spence versus Sean Porter, to me, was more telling. Even though he won that fight, it was more telling that he had less tools than Crawford because he never created separation in that fight. He never did a fight where it was like This was clean. Like, you know for a fact, this is cut, dry, clean. He separated himself from this person. He never did that. And that tells me, does he not have something else that he can dip into? Is it volume or bust? And I think that was proven last night. And it took somebody like Bud Crawford, somebody very elite, has incredible instincts, incredible IQ, a deep tool set to figure out what to do to put him in that uncomfortable situation and then see if he could get out of that. And he never did. So it was smooth sailing, literally, for Bud Crawford. It was smooth sailing from round 12 and 2 and on. From round 2 and on. Are we getting, we're getting subscribers. Hold on, sorry. Sub-Zero, thank you so much for the subscription. Basil Gomez, thank you so much for the subscription. De La Vega Route, thank you so much for the subscription. All right, and once again, guys, not taking anything away from Errol Spence. He's an amazing fighter. I commend him because he truly wanted this fight. He truly wanted this fight, and I don't know if he knew that he could win or maybe he believed in himself, but he truly pushed for this fight to happen. It needed both of them to push for this fight to happen, but I feel that Errol Spence pushed even harder than Terence Crawford for this fight to happen. Granted, Terence Crawford knew, but Terence Crawford was a little bit more like, I want this and this and this so that we could fight. And granted, Errol Spence gave him that. Even though Errol Spence brought the views, brought the money and everything, he still gave him that because Errol truly wanted this fight. So kudos to him. All props to him. But one thing I will say, that rematch is 100% unnecessary. If he's gonna activate it, at least activate it 2 fights later, like the 3rd fight from now. Get 2 fights in to clean up, to get something, to get confidence back, because you're going to go in there with less confidence. We got another subscriber. Carl Burton, thank you so much for the subscription, brother. Thank you. Go get yourself in a different mindset where you feel that you can come back and win. Because right now he's in a mindset where he feels he can't beat. That beating ruins people's career because you're not the same psychologically. When Mayweather beat Ricky Hatton the way he did, Ricky Hatton was never the same. This is Ricky Hatton that beat Casazu. This is Ricky Hatton that beat Jose Luis Castillo, like by knocking him out. This is Ricky Hatton that was a beast until he came up against Mayweather, lost in that fashion, and never recovered psychologically from that. Was never able to recover psychologically. So I'm hoping that the best way for him to recover is for him to do something, fight somebody that he feels that is a good name, but that he feels that he could beat them. Let's go. Episode 40 going up. Yo, we doing it right now. We sitting around. We got 88 concurrent viewers right now, but we sitting around close to that 90 number. I thank you so much, guys. Of course, I got to hit y'all with the Michael Buffer just so that I can show my appreciation. I know how much you guys like Michael Buffer. If Pac had fought Spence, he would have beat him a few years ago. Bud is good, but he's no Pac-Man or Mayweather. If Pac had fought Spence, he would have beat him years ago. Bud is good, but he's no Pac-Man or Mayweather. Okay, in terms of accomplishments, I would say that Pac-Man has better accomplishments, but I don't know if accomplishments is the best way to just gauge somebody if they're better or not, because sometimes a lot of that is just political, right? Terence Bud Crawford was promoted horribly by Top Rank, right? He was not promoted well. Granted, he's not a person that's very mic savvy in the way where he can sell a fight by talking, but he wasn't promoted well. So he didn't get those fights because he was always viewed as high risk, low reward. Who's going to fight a high risk, low reward? Errol Spence did the right thing by collecting the belts, because imagine he would have fought him, it wouldn't have been as explosive. We got a super chat. Hold on. ASVP TV. Who's next? Who's next for Crawford? I would say Jermell Charlo would be a perfect next fight. He could become three division undisputed, 4 division lineal champion if he fights Jermell Charlo at 154. I think that would be the best fight for him to do. as weird as this sounds, as crazy as this sounds, I'm sure Crawford will be okay with fighting Spence because he would view it, and I know that this sounds mad grimy, but he would view Spence at 154 as a tune-up fight at 154. However, I don't think that he would need that. I think he just understands that the rematch clause exists. And he will respect the rematch clause, and he'll say, "Cool, I'll use that as a tune-up fight." But if there is no rematch clause or it doesn't get activated right away, and there's some time, I think he'll fight Jermell Charlo in an explosive fight with undisputed versus undisputed. There's probably going to be some luster taken off of that fight, by the way, because Jermell Charlo is going to fight with Canelo Alvarez, and I'm sure that I have a suspicion that Canelo is going to win that fight, and then it's going to take some luster off, but he'll still be undisputed because his undisputed belts are not on the line. Canelo's undisputed belts are on the line, which, by the way, I do have to mention, guys, not to continue to toot my own horn here, but your boy is at a 6-fight prediction streak. We are currently in a 6-fight prediction streak. And the reason why it's easy to be in a 6-fight prediction streak is because I do not predict off of bias. I do not predict off of who I like. I do not predict off of team PBC or team Top Rank or team DAZN or team anything. I do not predict because I'm part of an echo chamber. I do not predict because I think that the fighter's trunks looks cool in the last fight. The way I predict my fights are all based on analyzing both fighters, looking at their career, looking at their competition, looking at their tool set, and what they're able to do in the ring. And that is the reason why we are sitting right now at a 6-fight prediction streak. If it was just by chance, we would have been hitting 50% of these because it's a coin flip. It's 50%. It's not by chance. It's by looking at the fights and analyzing them beforehand. All right, let's go ahead and take a look. What are you guys saying here? Hold on. Fabricio Pauletti 10. I actually told my brother that Crawford was going to stop Spence by the 9th round after the first knockdown. Look at that. Look at that. Hold on. I would say Boots Ennis should be the fight before Crawford takes on Charlo. Boots Ennis would get completely demolished by Crawford. Boots Ennis has not fought anybody at the caliber of a Terence Crawford or even an Errol Spence. I think that Boots Ennis versus Errol Spence makes a lot of sense. That makes a lot of sense. Think about it. If Boots Ennis fights Errol Spence is kind of like on the decline right now after what happened. Boots Ennis beats Errol Spence, then there's talks like, well, you know, the whole A fighter versus B fighter versus C fighter beats B, A fighter beats B. We don't know who's better between A and C. That's what will end up happening. So then, and they're in the same promotion, so it could easily happen. And right now, PBC might be thinking, well, we have to figure out ways to monetize what just happened because he was our number one fighter. If we put him up against Boots, that fight in and of itself will sell a lot of money. So if we do that fight and by any chance Boots beats him, and if he beats him really good, then we get like this super fight that we could set up with Crawford, because now it's like Crawford beat Spence, but so did Boots. Are you better than Boots? I personally think Crawford is better than Boots, and even if they fought after he beats Spence, if he was to fight Spence and beat him, I think that Crawford would beat Boots. But in terms of selling this to the public, that fight makes the most sense. Give Spence Boots, and then let's see what happens. Is Boots a high-level fighter? Is he going to be the next PBC star? Because they got to pass that torch on. They got to move it. Because honestly, I'm at a point where I don't even want to see Spence fight again, to be honest, because of the amount of damage he took in this fight. It feels that way. But I'm sure they're trying to make money. They want to monetize his loss in some way. This is how promotions work. This is how politics work. You don't just do things because that's your buddy. You also have an entire company and bunch of employees that you have to pay and keep employed. So I'm sure that they're going to look at avenues to monetize what just happened. I'm sure they wanted him to win, but because he lost, now they have to pivot. And I think Having a rising star like Boots in the 147 division, if you feel that you can get him in there and you feel confident that he could get the win, then you raise his stock and then you can set up another fight, another super fight with Terence Bud Crawford if they want. He's too big, Brooklyn boy. He's too big. He's too strong. He got the body shots. After the fight, he's too drained. Yeah, that's how that's how it happens, brother. That's how it happens, man. It's always like that. It's always that the dude is too big. Like that, they were saying stuff like, you're right. They were like, I can't see Bud. How you going? I was getting comments. I should have read the comments on my prediction video. You guys would have been laughing. I was reading comments like, you a clown. How you, what in the world, what would make you think that Terence Crawford would ever knock out Errol Spence? You must be smoking. You must be bugging. You don't understand how much power Errol Spence. He the bone collector. He going to collect the bone. All I did was go through a lot of these comments and hit a heart after the fight. I hit a heart. So they probably forgot they even wrote that because it was 11 months ago. But I'm sure they got a notification on their phone like, oh, I just got hearted by who's Boxing Fanatico. What's this? Hold on. Oh, damn. All right, let me not respond. Let me not say anything. Let me put that away. Like, you know what I'm saying? When a lot of these people, this is the thing, guys. If you want to be more accurate with your predictions, stop being so team one fighter, team this fighter. Don't do that. Don't do that because you're not predicting with your heart. You're not predicting with your mind. You're predicting with your heart. And I understand. I get it. I get that. Like when you feel an affliction to somebody or when you feel a correlation with somebody, you want to support that person. I get that. But when you start betting money and putting money on that person because you think, oh, you know, I have this feeling, this positive feeling about him, so I'm putting money on him, you're doing yourself a disservice. When you're a boxing pundit, when you're on YouTube, on here, talking about boxing, and you're just predicting based on your connection to the person, your relatability to the person. And you could literally be, I've seen people that's been real with it, that they're like, yo, I'm backing Spence no matter what, but I think Crawford's going to beat him. That's real. And that gives you more credibility because when you're a boxing pundit up here and all you doing is picking people because your team this, team that, and all that stuff, you end up looking unreliable. You look like you're just a fanboy. You have to remove your fanboyism to be able to actually accurately predict the sport because there's a lot of pundits that guide other viewers to believe one thing over the other. I'm sure that there's viewers that had these pundits not existed would not even think that Errol Spence would have beaten Terence Crawford because when you actually just look at both of them, you know that Terence Crawford had way more tools than Errol Spence. Even without doing the deep dive that I did, you just could tell by looking at what he's able to do. And that all I'm saying is a cautionary tale, guys. Just don't just connect yourself to somebody through the emotion and then reciprocate that by almost either internally lying to yourself or actually truly believing that and making that part of who you are. Because when they lose, you feel like a part of you lost. You feel like your arm, like you lost your arm because you've attached it to so much of your self-worth, to so much of your identity that you feel like a part of you has died. So you have to be very, very careful with how you see, because this could even bring like things where cognitive dissonance, where you start to not even understand what's real and what's not. And I know it sounds crazy, but these kind of things do this, especially all these years. Imagine that echo chamber that people had all these years about, like, Errol Spence is going to win, Errol Spence is going to win, Errol Spence is going to win. And how much that's rooted in their brain. And then he loses and it's like, well, what's real? Well, I thought he was too big. I thought he was this. I thought he was that. Now they're coping, right? They're coping by saying stuff like, oh, he's drained and all this and whatever. Meanwhile, he's been at 147 his entire career. Why wasn't he drained for Ugas? Why wasn't he drained for Danny Garcia? Why exactly in this moment was he now too drained? But he was never drained for any other fight. As a matter of fact, this is the only fight and we've seen this in All Access, where he actually had a nutritionist get him to 147. That nutritionist did his job because he landed right on the money, 147. That is science. This nutritionist gave him a perfect palette to make, or perfect like base to make it to 147 and be as like nutritionally dense as possible. He tried to make 147 before Crawford. He was trying to make 147 the hard way, just on his own, just not eating and barely eating. If anything, he was more refreshed in this fight in terms of his nutrition, because this is the first time he had an actual nutritionist making all his food. He went hard for Crawford. He went hard. He took it to the next level for Crawford. So if he wasn't he was at 147 since the amateurs. He's always been at 147. So if he wasn't too drained for Ugas, you can't say that he's too drained for Crawford. If he wasn't too drained for Danny Garcia, you can't say he's too drained for Crawford. And if you're going to use Danny Garcia as a talking point to show why he's much better than Crawford, there'll be a dichotomy there. There'll be a split between what you're saying and reality, and the logical consistency that's in between both of those things. So you can't do that, guys. You can't do that. Nah, I've been trolling. These hardcore irrational Spence fans deserve all the trolling right now. Listen, all I'm saying is I'm actually extending an olive branch to people that connect their self-worth to a fighter. Don't do it. Don't do it. You will be much more healthy. It will feel much healthier if you just analyze the fight and you don't connect your self-worth to a fighter. Trust me. Trust me. There's a lot of Spence fans right now that are like, they don't even know what to do. They're lost. And the reason that they're lost is because Spence lost the fight. And they might as well have lost the fight themselves. Even if I make a prediction and I'm wrong, you'll see me in my next video say, yo, that other dude was better, blah, blah, blah. He did this, he did that. He pulled this off, he pulled that off, he did his thing, da, da, da. And no one could say anything to me because I never attach myself to the fighters that I pick. That's another misconception. Because there's so much toxicity in the boxing world, especially with pundits, and there's only a very few amount of people that I would say is unbiased. People like Showbiz, the adult, he's unbiased in my opinion. But there's so many different fractions of pundits that are so biased. So they get clowned when the fighter that they chose lost because they were so biased for so long. When you come from a space where you're not biased, it's harder for people to clown you because it doesn't bother you. Because you never cared about that individual fighter. You just analyzed the fight and made a decision. So yeah, that's my 2 cents. Let's see what you guys are saying. Spitting bars right now. Yeah, you already know, man. We got to do it. Oh, TM, hold on. Crawford on steroids. He beat my boy too. He's on steroids too. Damn, he on steroids. What was he hearing? The hand wrap. He had something inside his glove. Crawford always bends out his gloves to block. By the way, look at the Avanesian fight. Did the same thing. Look at all the different. He does that to create more of, like, instead of having his glove like this, he has his glove like that. It creates more of a protective barrier. He always does that. Doesn't mean that there's something in his gloves. I always knew Crawford would win. He can fight any way. I've only Spence fight one way. Yeah, exactly. The engine, the nonstop engine in Pearson's. Coming out southpaw was money because he took Errol's jab away and left. Yep. He took Errol's jabs away and he took Errol's angles away because Errol's actually good at angling as well because uppercut is very effective if you could get on a T-line on a fighter. So, for example, if you're like this, but you go like this, an uppercut could get clean inside because it'll blade through a guard, right? If I throw an uppercut right in front of you, it's awkward, right? I leave myself wide open. It's harder to land. The open spot of, like, the wideness of it could clash with your guard if you have a tight guard. But if I throw it like this, it can blade through. So being a southpaw and doing those kind of volume punches that he was doing, for example, he did that in the Ugas fight, that's very effective. But what happens when you're fighting another southpaw that doesn't even need to be a southpaw? He's just a southpaw to take that away from you and to take your jab away from you. There was nothing else. He didn't pull out anything else from his back pocket. He was done. He was done. Boots going to be a tune-up for Bud. I think Boots versus Spence should be the next fight for Spence. I really do. This will do two things. It will help Boots' career or show that Spence still got it. One of those two things, but they could definitely monetize Spence off of this loss if they put him up against Boots. Because either Boots is going to be the rising star and the torch is going to be passed, and then everybody will be behind Boots, or Spence can show that he still got it and he could probably have another fight or something, and then they could really sell Bud versus Spence 2 and say, he wasn't feeling himself or whatever they want to say to market the second fight. Bud breath was thinking that's why Spence dropped the first time. Man, there's going to be a bunch of, Sim F-Ball Critic, what's going on, brother? We killing it tonight, man. We at 87 concurrent viewers, bro. We at 87. Hit the like, guys. Hold on, hit the like. Sorry, I see people like Sim F-Ball Critic. Like, we go way back, and we go years back. So, I had to let him know. I knew Bud was a superior boxer, but damn, Bud just put on a display and why he's pound for pound the best in the business. 100%, he is the best at number one. And I said it after Inouye's fight. I remember looking at Inoue and thinking, damn, this dude is crazy. He's only pound for pound until Saturday, though. Because Terence Crawford and Errol Spence means a lot. And for Terence Crawford to win, it's even more potent. It's even more potent for him to win. Because he's now the two-time undisputed champion, 2-division undisputed champion, 3-division lineal champion, undefeated, 40-0, knocked out everybody at 147, moved up to knock everybody out. You know what that is? He moved up from 140 to knock everybody out, but he started at 135. It's crazy, man. It's crazy. He's reached his pinnacle in terms of how much skill he has and how he could time everything and do everything the way how he could control the fight, basically. Look at how calm Bud was in the pocket, even pushing Spence off at times. Yeah, he also showed that he was stronger, right? People don't know, but Bud used to be a wrestler. He used to do collegiate wrestling. So he knows how to hold his base. He knows how to push you. He knows how to use leverage. People don't know that, man. People just assume Spence was bigger and stronger because Spence was bigger. He could be bigger, but he ain't stronger. He was bigger the night of the fight. He weighed more than Crawford, but he wasn't stronger. Crawford was stronger than him. This is why Terence kept throwing the lead uppercut and even dropped Spence with it because of the angle. Yeah, and pure sin. I'm telling you, man, he bested him in every way, shape, or form. Can we talk about Derrick James non-coaching? LOL. The problem is, I think Derrick James knows the limitations of Errol Spence Jr. He knows Errol Spence Jr.'s limitations. This was marketed as a 50-50 fight, but truly it was a 50-50 fight on paper because of their accomplishments. But truly, he was never really at the level of Bud Crawford. He was never really there. He wasn't. Unfortunately, he wasn't, and it was shown the night of the fight. And I think Derrick James knew there is nothing that we can do. There is nothing that we can do because what we do is overwhelm them with activity. We're doing activity and we're getting punished because of that. And he never stopped his activity. That is so telling to me. That shows a lack of boxing IQ, a lack of understanding the situation and changing it. Have you guys ever played Street Fighter or Mortal Kombat or whatever, any of those games? When it's a high level fighter playing a person who's not that high level, and the person's constantly jumping, and the other person's hitting him with the Taiyuken. If the person keeps jumping, you Taiyuken, Dayuke. Clearly, that person that's continuing to jump does not know what to do and doesn't understand that if he jumps for the 45th time, he's going to get hit with a Dayuke. Stop jumping. Do something different. He could not do that. He could not do that. It was just Dayuke, Dayuke, Dayuke all day. Anti-air all day by Bud Crawford. Anti-air all day by Bud Crawford. It was volume, volume, volume. Look at the CompuBox numbers. Spence threw 100 more punches than Crawford. Almost every round, minus like 2 rounds. He threw way more than Bud Crawford. But who was getting beat from pillar to post? Him. And he never shifted that, never changed that. At one point, Derrick James even told him, throw something wild. Let's get something to get. Derrick James, even in the post-fight press conference, said, I knew from round 2 that something was wrong, that something wasn't going to work. And I wanted him to throw wild punches to kind of change the narrative of the fight. He's admitting that they didn't know what to do, and they wanted him to land a Hail Mary. And guess what? He started throwing those Hail Marys and got punished even worse. Because Crawford, this is the thing. Crawford's going to see your sharp punches. You think Crawford ain't going to see your lunging hooks? Your fly-in lunging hooks? He's going to see those if he's seeing your sharp punches from the inside. He's going to see the one where you're a mile away trying to come in, and now you're so out of position, so out of balance, so open, he going to crack you. But everything with Bud was just timing. Everything with Bud was timing. Everything with Bud was timing. Everything with Errol Spence was just, can this volume thing that I've always done work on you? And it was told to him by round 2. Like, you get a leeway of 3 rounds of doing the same thing. You don't get a leeway of the whole fight never changing and doing something that's constantly punishing you. That shows a lack of understanding, a lack of IQ, a lack of being able to know and have this awareness, this cognitive awareness of what to do next. He didn't have that. And it's unfortunate. So that's why I say on paper, because of their accomplishments, because he's one of the best volume punchers in welterweight history. He's one of the best volume punchers. So he could do that to most people. He could do that to A-level fighters. He could do that to A-plus level fighters. That's how good he is at never getting tired and overwhelming you. He can't do that to elite fighters. The thing is, the elite fighters, they're only few and far between. He may have gone throughout his entire career and never met up with an elite fighter. But he ended up fighting Bud Crawford. And it showed him what happens when you meet a fighter like that's an elite fighter. The only elite fighter he ever actually fought was Bud Crawford. Did he fight good fighters? Did he fight really good fighters? Did he fight A-plus fighters? Yes. Did he fight an elite fighter? No, until he fought Bud Crawford, who took that away from him. It's sad, but it's the truth, man. What was Derrick James doing all that this time? I think I just talked about that. Crawford versus Thurman is the real fight. Even Bomac said Thurman was a guy they had their eye on. Thurman stopped Spence as well. Crawford versus Thurman is the real fight? No. There's no interest in that because I know for a fact with all the inactivity that Thurman has and all these different things, it's going to be easy work for Bud Crawford. We need a different narrative to tell us we don't know for sure. We kind of know, but we don't know for sure. The different narrative is him moving up to 154. If he goes up to 154 and fights Jermell, who's undisputed, we get the undisputed versus undisputed story. We get the, can he hang at undisputed? Can he continue his knockout streak? You guys do know that Bud Crawford has the second most longest knockout streak current in boxing, only behind Artur Beterbiev. It's Artur Beterbiev and then Bud Crawford with 10 knockouts in a row. No other person has more knockouts than Bud Crawford in a row currently other than Artur Beterbiev. And that man's a light heavyweight. This dude's doing it all the way down here at 147. So we want to see, can he carry his power to 154? I think he can because it's not so much about power, but about his the way he can leverage his power and his timing. So he's going to use all of that, and he's going to put that together. It's going to be easy for. I think he'll be able to knock out Jermell if they were to fight. But not everyone knows that, and not even if you know that, right? Even me, there's still an uncertainty because we have not seen it before. So the only thing to me that can mark the beating was so bad that the only thing that you can market to me to make me feel that there's something worth watching is if Bud Crawford goes up to 154 without a tune-up fight. Because if he does a tune-up fight and blasts whoever that guy is, it's going to be very telling. Go up to 154 and fight Jermell immediately. Right after Jermell fights Canelo, they set up a Jermell versus Crawford fight. And then we see what happens. I think that his fight, his swan song, Crawford's swan song, should be fighting Canelo for undisputed. Fighting Canelo for undisputed. Maybe at 160 or 168. If he goes up there, and then he could become a 4-division undisputed, wins all of these belts, because yes, he would beat Canelo Alvarez if they fought. Get all those belts, and then he has a really powerful argument as to if he's better than the likes of Floyd. Although Floyd beat Canelo, this is a different Canelo, right? This is the undisputed Canelo. So if he could beat Jermell, he beats Spence, and then he beats Canelo moving up in weight in a dramatic fashion, then there's not much that there. He's definitely in that conversation of being better. He's definitely in that conversation. He's also only 10 fights away from tying Floyd. So if he did 2 fights a year, he could tie it in a short amount of time, right? I don't know when he's going to retire. He fights in a way where I think that he's kind of like, reminds me of Bernard Hopkins. He could keep going, but he might go too far. So I don't know. But if he could tie the record, or he could pass the record, or he could do multiple 4-division undisputed in a 4-belt era, only person. We just hit 100 concurrent viewers. We got to celebrate that. This is the first time. We're at 101. Crazy. I was supposed to end 10 minutes ago, but it's just too. This is just too amazing. It's just too amazing. All right, hold on. Where's Tank? He's been real silent since his Glass Shield comment. Oh, yeah, because, come on, man. This is the thing. This is another thing, too. I don't care what boxers say about what's going to happen, because boxers are also in the same echo chamber. What was it? Didn't they ask Gary Russell Jr., and he said that Errol Spence has better defense than Bud Crawford? He said Errol Spence he's more technically sound. He's more proficient, and his defense is better, and he knows how to keep his hands up. And are you out of your mind? This fight just proved that the person with the better defense was not Errol Spence. It was Bud Crawford. Bud Crawford had better defense than Errol Spence Jr. by miles. Because it's not just about who looks flashy and always has their hands up. It's about the IQ of understanding when somebody's going to punch, when they like to punch, how to counter their punches, and how to take away their best assets. That's all part of defense. People simplify boxing too much. Boxing is incredibly complex. It's incredibly complex. People be like, oh, he don't know how to fight because he got his hands down. No. Does he have his hands down because he's baiting this dude? And when he baits him, is he catching him into traps? Is he putting his hands up when it matters to catch and shoot? It's not straight up and down. It's not black and white. It's incredibly complex, and people don't understand that. So people buy into that stuff. Oh, yeah, let me see a video. Yeah, Crawford got his hands down. His defense is garbage. It's not, bro. It's not. No rematch. Is there no rematch a hope, or is that actual news? No, I'm saying there should not be a rematch. I'm sure he will rematch him. But if he does, I don't think it makes sense to rematch Crawford immediately. Why do it immediately? What's the point? Take some time, fight a Boots Ennis. Boots versus Spence is a perfect fight. On all sides for PBC to continue to be to increase their finances and monetize Errol Spence's loss, you got to put him up against Boots. Because either you make Boots the new star, or you make Spence prove that he can still beat somebody of the caliber of Boots. And then it gives people a feeling like, oh, well, if he moves up to 154, maybe he could beat Bud Crawford because he'll be more relaxed in a weight that is more comfortable for him. You got to give the public something to look at and say, okay, I want to see this rematch. Just because you were a superstar, no, that beating was bad. That beating was so bad that him being a superstar is not enough for us to watch part 2. It just isn't. You could see the data points to these things all over the place. Tyson Fury versus Deontay Wilder 1. How much did it do? Over 1 million pay-per-view buys. Tyson Fury versus Deontay Wilder 2. Not so much. And that was even closer than the first one. So you got to give us a narrative, a story that we could say, okay, all right. Even though people like me, I'm gonna know what the real is, right? Boots never fought anybody of a high caliber to begin with, so he could look flashy against Avila, but Avila is like the most top 10 person, like number 10 that he's fought. So he ain't fighting anybody super special to make me feel like, oh, okay, this is something he's doing this to special fighters, right? Because Roy Jones, he was flashy, and he fought James Toney, and he was flashy. He fell off at one point, but he was flashy. Even with the highest level that he could fight, he was flashy. Jaron Boots Ennis is flashy, but not at the highest level. So if Spence fights him, Spence could lose to him. That is a possibility, and that raises his stock. Because now it's like, oh, he's flashy even with a Spence. And he beat Spence, so we don't know if he could beat Crawford because Crawford beat Spence, and they both beat Spence. So who wins between Crawford and Boots? I'm just saying this as looking at it through the business side for PBC to monetize the Errol Spence loss. And if it goes on the other side and Errol Spence wins, now you say, look, Errol Spence is good. He just need to move up and be comfortable at 154. He's good enough to beat a Boots at 147, but if he moves up to 154, he'll really be ready for Crawford. That's how you can sell that. We can't listen to these fighters. They are just riding their mans. Exactly. Stop listening to fighters because they're also part of the echo chamber. They're also part of the echo chamber. They're part of the echo chamber. So, like, people say, oh, this fighter said it, so it gives them more confidence. Stop listening to fighters because they're part of the same echo chamber. They're team this and team that. They're part of the whole thing. They're part of all of that. You got to listen to unbiased people that give analysis. When a person's unbiased, that's the best person to talk to listen to. If they know what they're talking about, but they give you an unbiased description of what's going to happen, and by unbiased is when everything is all over the place, where you're picking fighters not based on what stable they are, what camp they're from, what promotional company they come from. You're mix and matching all of your selections based off of just analyzing the fight itself. That's how you know if somebody's unbiased. If it's always team this and always team that, you know that there's a bias there. By the way, I agree. That was such a one-way traffic that the rematch isn't very compelling unless we see Spence rebound first. Correct. Boots' best win is against Lipinets at 140 champ who got beat by Mikey. Yeah, exactly. This is what I'm trying to say. And he looks flashy. He's entertaining to watch. What he did to Villa was beautiful, but that's Villa. Can you do that to a Spence? You know what I'm saying? Can he do that to somebody like a Danny Garcia? You know what I'm saying? Like, can he do that to a Bud Crawford? That's what we want to know. That's what I want to know. Man, you are crazy. Boost is not a tune-up. I'm not saying that he's a tune-up. We don't know if he is. What I'm trying to say is that they need to roll that dice with Spence to monetize his loss. Maybe he isn't a tune-up and then they make money off of the Boots rise. Or maybe he is and then they make money off of the redemption story. All I'm talking about is the business of making money off of the fact that your fighter lost, because Bud, he's at PBC, but he's like Devin Haney. He's at PBC the same way Devin Haney was at Top Rank. This ain't longevity. Bud Crawford is not longevity. If a good fight up at 154 is Jermell, he'll stay at PBC. If a good fight up at 168 or whatever is Canelo, and Canelo is now on DAZN, guess where Bud's going? To DAZN. He's as much a PBC fighter as Devin Haney was a top-ranked fighter. All right, guys, we went 20 minutes overtime. I'm going to have to call it here. This was the most amazing live stream we hit. We did 3 figures. We did over 100 concurrent viewers. Thank you so much, guys. This was amazing. I'm glad that the prediction that I did 11 months ago has come back full circle. And it to me, of all of the predictions that I've seen, and I've seen all these different pundits talk about the fight, I don't think I've seen a more accurate prediction than what was predicted here on Boxing Fanatico. Okay, guys, until next time, we are back live every Mondays, Wednesdays, Fridays, guys. So Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern time, for 1 hour normally, but today, to celebrate how much we had, concurrent viewers and everything like that, we went over a little bit. But until 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. is the normal time that we are live. We talk all things boxing. We're still following the saga between Shakur Stevenson and Devin Haney. If they're going to fight, it's looking like what's his name? Regis Prograis doesn't want to take the money, he feels that the money's too low, so that might open something up for a Shakur versus Devin Haney. So let's see if that comes to fruition. But the saga continues. Haney wants to keep his belts. He's saying that he's going to come back to 135 after he fights Regis Prograis. That doesn't make any sense to me, but that's what he's trying to say that he's going to do. And Shakur doesn't want him to hold up the title, so we'll see what happens with that. The next big thing is, I guess, Canelo versus Jermell. That's the next big thing. So we're going to look forward to that. We're going to talk about things leading up into that fight. I think Jake Paul is going to fight. Who's he going to fight? Nate Diaz. Jake Paul is fighting Nate Diaz. KSI has announced that he's going to fight Tommy Fury. So that's going to be a big deal as well. Does he do better than Jake Paul? I know that's boxing adjacent, but there's some level of interest when it's done at the highest level for those guys, right? KSI versus Tommy Fury, I think that's the highest level for those guys. All right, until the next one, guys, thank you so much. Today was amazing. We'll see you on Wednesday again, 7 p.m. Eastern time. Thank you again. Let me end it with a Michael Buffer real quick, just because this was so beautiful. This was amazing.
Ladies and gentlemen, let's get ready to rumble!
Until the next one, guys, peace out.